say that if you were a servant, you only work for your master, what you have to do and no more. Whereas if you volunteer, you'll do much, much more. So what's it telling us? The rabbi is telling us, greater is the command that you're commanded to do than the one that you volunteer. The answer is very simple. What HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us is even the mitzvahs, which we know is common sense, we have to use it as a statute, as though we don't know the reasoning behind it. For example, honoring your parents. Now, I must tell you, there was a time when I would have said every child should honor his parents. Wonderful. Yeah, I hear some people saying, why should I? I didn't ask to be born. You hear this sort of statement coming out from them. So the Torah is telling us that even what we would call common sense mitzvah, you have to do them as though they are statutes, as though you didn't know the reason, but only because you were commanded to do them, that's why you do them. And that's something here was telling us with the Porah Aduma, with the red heifer, one of the strangest mitzvahs of all. Here we have a Kohen, we have a priest who has to keep Torah the whole time, and yet he's prepared to make himself unclean in order to cleanse his colleagues in the community. Amazing thing this. Nobody can, only Moshe Rabbeinu could penetrate this and understand it. But nevertheless, every single thing he did it because it was commanded by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's the beginning of the Cedra here to tell us. You all know, of course, that the Porah Aduma, the red heifer, was there as an atonement for the child, the golden calf. The mother comes along and says she's sorry, but the Jewish people did the golden calf. This was sort of the idea behind it. So in other words, the opening of the Seder comes and tells us quite categorically, Zois Chukas HaTorah, every single mitzvah, even although you could turn around and say, oh, it's common sense. Now, for example, we find there are many people try and give excuses and reasoning behind some of our mitzvahs. Don't look for them, because they don't necessarily. I'll give you, for example, you know, bris milah, circumcision. The consultants, the pediatricians in my day, and I'm going back a long, long time, 80 years ago, 70 years ago, 60, even 40, 30 years ago, pediatricians were saying, oh, circumcisions is the best thing for hygiene. It's a cleansing thing for the body, and all sorts of other reasons. Today, pediatricians are saying, don't do it. I mean, I had my tonsils taken out when I was 40 years of age. Today, they're saying, don't take your tonsils out because God gave them to you, leave them in. And yet, in those days, the consultants would say, take them out because they're infectious. And today, it's changed. So in other words, with time changing, with the reasoning we gave behind mitzvahs 40 years ago no longer exists. Does that mean to say because you can't give a reason for it, we should stop doing it? That's the other thing. I mean, it's an amazing thing. I also heard that with milk and meat, basa b'cholov, that in the olden days they didn't have fridges. Let me tell you something. They knew in the olden days how to keep food fresh. In the desert, they were able, I heard this, you're able to dig deep into the sand and things got cool at the bottom in the sand, that they kept them longer than some of our fridges, that the milk goes sour so fast. So don't look for excuses. Every mitzvah in the Torah is a statute, whether you understand it or don't understand it. Don't come along and give a reason for it. So let's now move on to the one I love, of course, is Balak. Here we have Balak, this king who hates the Jews. Unbelievable. He calls along and he gets Balaam to come along and to curse the Jewish people. He's scared of them. And like, let me tell you something, we get this today as well. People are scared of them. And I tell you, it's a frightening thing going on at the moment, that they're looking every single thing. I remember Lord Jacob, the chief rabbi, I asked him, what is the definition of an anti-Semite? And he turned around and he said, somebody who hates you more than is necessary. You hear that? What did he mean? He said, anti-Semitism was created for the Jewish people to keep us together. That's why it was there. But unfortunately, it has gone beyond a joke now. It's exactly like Balaam. Come along, curse them, blame them. Twin Towers, they caused it. Pandemic, who caused the pandemic? Who has given all this virus? The Jews. That's all I hear. The Jews, the Jews, the Jews. Because they've got to find somebody who can blame. And then we have, and this is something which has been really annoying me, we've had demonstration, Jews for the blacks. You've seen that. And yet what are the blacks doing? the looting, destroying in America and in England, the killing people. And this is it. There should be Jews for Jews as well sometimes, I think, and the blacks for the Jews. Don't mind the Jews for the black. I hate this business of putting people into boxes, into categories. We should all be, like, for example, I'm going to tell you, you know, there's a song, Am Yisrael Chai. You know it? The people of Israel are alive. It's so wrong. You don't find Am Yisrael. We find it, and if you look through the Torah, it doesn't refer to Am Yisrael. It refers to Am B'nai Yisrael, the children. There's no other nation that tricks their children like we do. What was it Golda Meir says? If the Arabs would love their children as much as they hate us, what a different world it would be. You know, there's a joke, and it's a horrible joke, but I'll tell you, I don't think it's a political one, where two Hamas people were talking, showing photographs of their children. So one woman says to the other, oh, she said, this is my 19-year-old. He blew himself up and he did so much destruction. She said, this is my next child who's 16. He said, he also blew himself up. Oh, a martyr. He says, and my baby, he says, he's 12. He says, he's on his way to, he says, oh, don't they blow up fast? Not to grow up, but they blow up. But this is the attitude. They take a pride in killing their own children in order for this sinah, this hatred that's there. Why was the Torah given on Mount Sinai? We did it at Shavuos because the word Sinai comes from Sina, which means hatred. There was jealousy. People are jealous of us. We have a wonderful way of life. Our discipline is something so special. All the rules, the regulations, they are chukim, they're statutes, but they're there to make us a special nation chosen out. We are Am B'nai Yisrael. Doesn't talk about the nations of the world as the children of. They're just they're the nations. They come in. The diarists, they come generation after generation. With us, it's our children. It's our family. Have a look and see how we're numbered, how we're counted, the speciality of it. It's so beautiful, and yet they come along, he's jealous. Balak is jealous. And now it's a strange thing, this. I always ask the question to people, why is the Cedra given to Balak? I mean, after all, he hated us. Would you put a street called Hitler Street? You understand this? It's interesting how the Torah does it. Why? And my reasoning behind it is because we have to praise him for the fact that he was an honest broker. He admitted he hated us and he wanted us to be destroyed. So we put him in the Torah. You have Yisro, who loved us. So we put him in the Torah as well. So even the names of the Cedras have got meaning towards it. So let's move forward now and understand a little bit about Balaam, because Balaam is a strange character. Have a look and see what he did. I mean, with his stubborn donkey, and he hit him, and oh, boy, what he only did. So he gets called in, and he says to, and I'm going to ask you a few questions here and see how we can discuss it. What power did Balaam actually have? He said, come and curse them. Could he do it? What power did he have? He blessed the Jewish people, or did he curse them? What was going on here? Secondly, if Moav called him in and he couldn't curse the Jewish people, they were worried. Why didn't he bless them? I bless you, Moav. You should be successful. You understand the different attitude. Don't bother cursing your enemy. Bless your friend. To be surviving. It's a different thing altogether. That. Why didn't he do it? Third question. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he said, you know, Balaam went to God and said, these guys have come to me. Can I go with them? God said to him, Lo selechim mohem, don't go with them. Then all of a sudden, God changes his mind. He changes his mind. He says, Lechitom, go with them. And when he does change his mind and tells them to go, what happens? He gets angry with them. Have a look and see the whole play here. Don't go, go. Now I'm angry. It's almost like telling your children, can I please have a nice lolly? And they said, no, you can't. Oh, it's a hot day. Have a nice lolly. Why did you eat that ice lolly? You knew it wasn't good. Come on, you told me I could do it. It's a simple question. Why is it that God changed his mind? Did he change his mind? Because God doesn't change his mind. God is so positive and final. He knows exactly what he's doing. He didn't do one thing and say another. You understand the question here? How could God come along and say he changed his mind? And the next question is as follows. Why did the Kodesh Baruch Hu stop him cursing the Klal Yisrael? If he could do it, why didn't he let him do it? Because you'll find it in Tehillim as well. The curses that anybody gives us has never actually come against us. HaKadosh Baruch Hu protects us. So why didn't he let him go on? Open your big mouth, curse us, right? Go on and do it. Let me go and do the following. The Rashi comes along, and Rashi says the following. He talks about a bee. You know the expression, I neither want your sting or your honey. What does it mean? I don't want your sting or your honey. The answer is as follows. Where does the honey come from? A honey doesn't come from the bee. Otherwise, if it came from the bee, it would be treif. We can't eat anything that comes from a treif animal. Where does the honey come from? A little bit I learned about that is that a bee comes along, goes into a flower, takes the nectar, puts the nectar somewhere else, and it creates honey. Nothing to do with the bee at all. All right? I don't want, so what does he mean, Rashi say? I don't want your sting or your honey. He was saying quite simply that the blessing, which would not have come from Balaam, it was not from him, he was a bee, if you like, it wouldn't have come from him. I don't need your blessings. But at the same time, I don't want your curses. In other words, we're seeing here that Balaam could only sting. Just like the bee, like the wasp, the bee. A bee could only sting you, could only do you harm, but he couldn't give you the honey. Balaam could not, Rashi says, Balaam could not give you any honey, couldn't give you a blessing. In a month of Sundays, he couldn't have tried it. Curses possibly he could have done here, but he didn't have the power in order to give a blessing. So that's your first question answered. And the second is, had he cursed us, for future generations, he would have said, with a nation, have a look at the curses he said. He tries to say, a nation that lives by themselves, how do we survive? We survive because we had ghettos. We've made ourselves apart from other people, correct? This is how we survive of all these things. So we see here, the answer to the questions, the first lot of questions is, number one, Balaam did not have any power. He couldn't bless us, he couldn't curse us, he couldn't do anything. That was the first answer. So the second thing, the first question, the second is, he couldn't curse or bless Moab. He didn't have the power. No power whatsoever. So therefore we know now, we'll write him out. He was, do you know why God gave us this prophet of Balaam? Because you know it says, in Klal Yisrael, Lokom be Yisrael. There never arose at Sigdal, he says, there never arose in Israel, Moshe, like Moshe, Od Novi, another prophet. What does it mean? Moshe Rabbeinu was the only prophet who was unique. But the Goyim would turn around, the nations of the world would come and say, if we had a Moshe, we would have been different. Oh, so what did God do? He gave them a Balaam. Was it any different? Anechti can talk, it didn't play anything. He couldn't do anything. He tried, he just wasted the talents which he had. But they couldn't turn around and say, Lokom be Israel. That's why that word Israel goes in. Can you see that? There never arose in Israel. But in the other nations, Balaam was there. He could have had the power, but he didn't have it. He didn't use it properly. He didn't know what to do with it. That was his problem. So he didn't have the power to bless us, and he didn't have the power to curse us. So the thing as well is with Moab, he couldn't bless them. He couldn't curse us, and he couldn't bless them. So therefore, that's the first two questions answered. Now we'll go on to the next question. Why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu change his mind? Let's do a little bit of Hebrew words. And I'm going to follow this through, by the way. If I tell you this now on Balaam, you have to find proof of it in other places as well. We find that the words he used was, Lo selech imohem. Im means with. And when he says, Lech itom, go with them, there's a very big difference in the Hebrew letters of im and eis. Don't go with them. It meant, don't go with them with that attitude. Lech itom, you go with them, but go with a different purpose. Not to curse the Jewish people. You have to make sure that your purpose is completely different. You will go to serve me, says HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You will not go to serve Balaam, to serve Balak. So he said, all right, well, why did Vayelech? And he went Balak. Balak went with Balaam. Balaam went with him with the same intention of cursing the Jewish people. So how can we prove that this meant the same? If he says, I say, Lo selechi mohem, don't go with them, means don't go with them in the same purpose, there must be a proof of this. Let's look at the very, very beginning of our history. You have Abraham and you have Lot. You remember where Vayelech Lot went with him. Why did Lot go with Avraham? Remember, Lot had to, Avraham was his Lech Lecha, so you go home, leave place, go, I'll show you the place. And Lot went with him. Why did Lot go with him? Did he go with him because HaKadosh Baruch Hu commanded him? No. He turned around and his attitude was, and it's a very interesting, it's recorded. He said, Abraham's an old man. I've got a Yerusha, I've got an inheritance coming. I'm the only one. He's got no children. I'm going to inherit everything. So I'm going to go with him. And when he does pass out, I'll take over. I'll get everything. So his ulterior motive was to become rich, not to go and serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's why Lot was punished, because he did not go with Avram with the same purpose. Again, Im and Ace. Now, I'm going to tell you something else in Pirkei Avos. You're all learning it at the moment, I'm sure. Rabbi Yosef ben Kisma says the following. You remember the man came to him and he said, I want you to come to our town. I'll pay you as much as you want. Start a yeshiva. He says, but I want you to come imonu bim kamenu. I want you to come in and join us. Now, look, think about this. If somebody says to you, I'm going to make you a multi-billionaire, come and live with us, be our rabbi, and therefore, so he said, if I had all that money, I could open a yeshiva, I could open a kollel, I could open a big shul, I could open learning sessions, I could use the money for everything. No, it's what he understood. He said, yes, he said, do they want me to go? He says, but what do they want me to do? It says, imonu, with that word im, with the same intentions that we've got. Not that you'll bring us up, but we'll bring you down to our thinking. There are certain ways for people today, unfortunately, where the rabbi is subservient. He's got to do, the president says this, the president says that. You know the story, beautiful story. There was a young kollel man, a man of an outstanding scholar. They wanted him to become the rabbi of a town. I mean, the story is an amazing, amazing story. He says to him, he says, I want you to come. So the rabbi said, I'll come on one condition. He said, it's coming up towards Sukkot. Buy me the best esrog you'll ever find. And after Sukkot, I will tell you whether I'm going to come to your town. He said, okay. They went out, they spent a fortune, and they bought him the most beautiful esrog. He went to the shul the first morning, and everybody saw this esrog with a pitum, which is absolutely golden. So the first man says, can I have a look at your esrog? He said, of course. He took it. What had happened? Shlemazel, he dropped it. The pitum fell off. Next one took it. He says, oh, it's still beautiful. But he squeezed it. He wanted to see. By the time it got back round from the shul, it was, they say, an oisge lulav and oisge kvetched. It was squeezed to smithereens. So he went to the Rav, went to the president. He said, look, he says, this is what they've just done to my esrog. Do you think I'm stupid? I'm going to come here. They'll do this to me. So he didn't take it, because what they do is they want to bring him down to their level, not to him to bring them up. This is the attitude which is changing today. In the olden days, the Rav said something, you jumped. You know, if you said, I remember kibbutz aim. When my father said something to me, he said, jump, I would say, how high? Today, why do I need to do it yourself? This is an attitude here. So here we find that Yosef ben Kisman realized, he says, he will come imonu with us, with our purpose, with our intention. We'll tell you what we want from us. Bim kamenu, what we want to be done in our area, in our place. This is where we learn from Balaam. Balaam was told, Lo selechi mohem. Don't go with their intention. Maintain your own personality. Maintain your own mitzvahs. Chukas and statutes. You can't change the Torah. The Torah can change you, but you can't change the Torah. You can change the area, but the area mustn't change you. You've got to be strong and have koiches to be able to withstand rabbonis. You know, usnes rabbonis. The Pirkei Avos says, hate rabbonis. Believe me, I'm beginning to come and think about this. What's going on? What goes on in rabbonis today is not the same as when I was a Rav. I've retired now, Baruch Hashem, so I can say this. So here we find, therefore, that The whole inyan of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he didn't change his mind. He just told him how he should go. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu says to him, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu stop him from cursing? After all, it wouldn't have had any effect, because if Chas v'Sholem, in later generations, something would have happened to Klal Yisrael, what would they have said? That the curse of Balaam was taken for. Why should he get the credit for this? You understand? Not everything happens immediately. You should know something. You may do something today, but you know when the reward will be there? When you see your grandchildren. And I see this for myself. So many things I wanted to do, could never do it, but I'm watching, see my grandchildren doing exactly what I wanted to do. You see, generations later, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will perform the thing, give the rewards, or chas v'sholem. So we've answered these questions. So now there's one more question I want to answer. And this is a story. You know, I always love telling you stories. With Rabbi Kamenetsky, I found this today when I was learning in the middle of the night. You know, Balaam was wanting to curse. He was having a problem. So Balak said to him, why don't you go to a corner? And perhaps you can curse the corner. And then that'll curse the whole of the Jewish people. So what was he saying? He said as follows, is, how can I curse HaKadosh? When HaKadosh Baruch Hu is angry, he said. So each time his mission failed, Balak flew into a rage. Balaam attempted to cement the HaKadosh Baruch Hu's intention of him with sacrifices, but it didn't work at all. So he said, look, he says, come with me. What's the difference whether he could see the whole of the people or he could only see part of the people? This is the following story that I want to tell you. Beautiful story. There was a very talented Jewish scholar who, unfortunately, in a very small Polish town, was placed on trial, just outside Lvov. The charges brought by a local guy there on some trumped-up charge and complaint. Now, this scholar was loved by everybody. He served in the capacity here as the shoichet, the ritual slaughter. He was the chazan. He was the cheder rebbe. People loved him, but they were worried now that he was going to go before this big anti-Semite, and what was going to happen to him, they were petrified. So as he presented himself to the charges, the judges started laughing, and they called him Mr. Butcher. Mr. Butcher. And of course, everybody started laughing at this, the kangaroo court. So he started, Your Honor, he says, in my defense, he says, I want to clarify something. This is what this young man said. He says, I run the shul. The people know me as their cantor. The children at the school know me as their teacher. The parents know me as their teacher. It's only the animals that know me as a shoichet, as a butcher. You understand what he was saying? He was saying that this guy, this judge, was looking for something which would demean his position. This is what Balaam was told to do by Balak. Go and look. See if you can see there's something wrong, a fault. Grab onto that fault, that little bit. Utilize that fault. Extend that fault out and bash the Jewish people for their simple fault. Couldn't do it because they couldn't find any fault. And you know the very famous statement which we say every morning in davening? Matovu oholecho Yaakov mishkanosecho Yisrael. And how do we translate that as follows? You translate it in your Siddur, I don't know in Dutch, how good are your tents, O Jacob, your dwelling place, O Israel? Correct? That's how you translate it. Very simple. I'm going to change it completely for you. And you'll appreciate how important this all is. It goes as follows. Ohel is a tent, an individual home, a small tent, okay? Yaakov is an individual. Let me just turn this off because it's my children phoning from Manchester. You know something? My great-grandchildren, I've got a Michigas now. They phone at 6 o'clock in the morning when they're awake to speak to my wife. And at night time, they don't sleep, so they phone her. Thank God they leave me alone. They found the soft spot in the family, so they pick on that soft spot. But this is Friday, so they all phone up to say good Shabbos, every one of them. So here we got as follows. Ohel is an individual's home. Your home is at Ohel, is your tent, correct? It's your home. By Sarah, the Ohel shel Sarah, the tent of Sarah was a private individual home. Yaakov, who was Jacob? He was an individual. His name was changed to Israel because he represented everybody. What is Mishkan? Mishkan is a shul. Mishkan is a temple. Mishkan is a sanctuary, a place where everybody goes. This is the translation. This is what Balaam saw. Nobody was looking into anybody else's tents. It's quite clearly said. They were so beautiful, but he was saying something. He said, just Matoivu Oihel Yaakov, just as every individual home in Jacob is something special, and the total sum of all of them, that is Mishkan Yisrael. That is how the community looks, how the shul looks. It's the whole is equal to the sum of the parts. If you've got a community where the homes are full of purity, where the home keep kashrus, where the home keeps respect, where the home davens, where the home shows love, kindness, chesed, not just tzedakah, chesed. And I've told you the difference. That's how the community, today, I'm going to tell you, and I can't believe it, I don't want it to go back to the way it was before the pandemic. Before the pandemic, I didn't even know who my neighbors were. I didn't even know half of them who were Jewish. All of a sudden, Rabbi, I'm Jewish. I want to learn a bit now. They've opened up. They've come out. It's an amazing thing, this. Their homes have become part of the community. They want to help everybody. If they need the help, they want to give other help. Amazing. So it just tells you, it's good now because of the beauty of the individual care and kindness. That's how the whole community's changed. That's how your whole community looks today. And I'm sure it's the same in Holland as well. An amazing bracha we got. A bracha from Balaam, which HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us. By the way, every other bracha was lost. It became actually to our detriment. Have a look. The only bracha that's remained, and that's going fast if we're not careful. Perhaps that's why we've got this pandemic, to remind us that if we've got good homes, beautiful homes tonight, you'll light your candles, you'll light up your home, you'll show the chesed, you'll show the ayah, the Torah. That's what it's all about. Isn't that a wonderful thing now that we can keep that bracha again, just as good as the homes are, as the total amount of individual homes? That's what the community will look like tomorrow. I hope in Mitzvah Shem, and that's the first part of my talk today, is on the Cedra. Now
Alan.
Yes?
I have a question. The thing is, do you think, what's your opinion about that? You think that the pandemic from the corona is coming by accident, or what you're saying, it has not coming by accident, it has a useful part in the next life, because in the old time we have to...
I will tell you, before you go any further, the word accident is mikra, happens by chance, doesn't exist. Have a look. The only time it was Balaam, this week's Cedra, by chance HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he wasn't going to give him an invitation, but by Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayikro, at the beginning, the very first one that HaKadosh Baruch Hu called him, there's a small aleph, correct? Why? Because it reads Vayikra, Vayokra. He happened by chance. Moshe Rabbeinu did not want them to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu had invited him and came and called him. He said it was by chance. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said it doesn't happen. There's no such thing as chance. Everything that's happening in this world today is hashgocha by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There's a reason. We've got to sit down and understand. I'm telling you now, do you know what? I'll give you a few reasons for this. I'll give you a couple of reasons. Number one, the homes of Klal Yisrael were falling apart. They were not talking to each other. People were getting out. People were getting divorced. People were losing what it is to have a home, to look after their children. How many spent time sitting, playing with their children, educating? It's V'shinantom levanecho. At the beginning of Shema, the obligation is to teach your own children. But unfortunately, not everybody could do it. So the second paragraph says that is an obligation on the Kehillah. But the first obligation is on you. Unfortunately, today, too many people have abrogated that obligation. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu's made it for us. You've got to sit with your children in the house. You've got to teach them. You've got to learn with them. You've got to make a kviyas with them. That's number one. Number two, the chesed. The people were going shopping for you, buying you things. People were giving you the things that they didn't need in their home. The chesed that came out of this. Number three, the avodah. In other words, there was so much beautiful to make sure you were all right. People were phoning up just to kapika chaylim. I mean, you had, even though I'll tell you something, Halvoya Sames we couldn't do, correct? Because we couldn't go to Levayas. But yet it was done in such a dignified way that the Shivas we had over Zoom taught us how to teach how a Shiva should behave, where they shouldn't go in as a social event for tea parties. Do you see that? Do you see how we got many lessons we're learning? That Kodesh Baruch Hu is teaching us. Unfortunately, we're not learning. We've got to learn these lessons, you know. And I'll tell you something as well. You remember Yom Kippur War? What was the ness about the Yom Kippur War is that even in Israel, the Jewish people, the Israelis, did not go to the beach on Yom Kippur. They went to shul, even if it was only for an hour. They went to shul. If it would have been Rosh Hashanah, Chas v'Shalom, we'd have lost the whole of Eretz Yisrael. With the miracle, it was a miracle that we were all there, and the Kodesh Baruch Hu gave it. It didn't take them long after that miracle for the army to turn around and say it was our strategy. We were doing this, we're doing that. They've taken the Kodesh Baruch Hu out of the equation. We mustn't take them out of the equation now. This has got to us. Now I'll tell you why I say this. Some of the Gedolim that we've lost, it's scary. It's perhaps teaching us as well. We've got to be prepared for the next doyer. You know, there's too much of a Yeridas Hadoyer. We're losing all the great thinkers. We should be showing the youngsters today to come forward and taking the places of those people who've gone now. These are all lessons. I'm telling you, I believe HaKadosh Baruch Hu is ruling this world. I hope I've got betochen and emunah that this is not done by accident. This is on a person and real purpose. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is ruling the world. And you know something? Can you go back a little bit? You remember the other pandemics that we've had in the world today? The other viruses that we had? And the HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave us a cure for it. You remember AIDS was a plague. It's now a cure. Cancer, even leukemia today, they can find a cure for it. But HaKadosh Baruch Hu put something back in again into the world that we can't do, just to show him he's still in control. And they work on this and something else happens. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is teaching us lesson after lesson after lesson to remember he runs the world. And that's something as well. And that's why when the Mishnah says, Kashem shevochim al atov, kach mevochim al ra, when you bless, make a bracha for good, make a bracha as well for this, because there's a purpose behind everything. We've got to find the purpose. We've got to look for it. And if you find that purpose, then the Kodesh Baruch Hu will perhaps take it all away and teach us where we're living according to his Torah. So there's no such thing as by accident. It just happens. Coincidence doesn't exist by us. It's a,
so not going back to normal.
Yeah. You know something, it's interesting that Shidduchim, by coincidence, I happened to be in the house many years ago where my wife was sitting, and the first thing she said was she'd never marry a Rov, she'd never marry a Shoichet, a teacher, anybody in Klal. Do you know something? She married everything. I'm a teacher, I'm a Shoichet, I'm a Rov. So just by coincidence, I happened to meet her at the house. It wasn't. It was Hashgacha Protis. I had to be there with a friend that I was Chavrusa with in Yeshiva. So let me tell you that. So that's your answer to that, okay? So now let's go now and think, just we've got a few minutes left. Let's go in and look at the 3 weeks now. The 3 weeks will start next week. Am I correct? Have I got the calendar correct? Yeah, it's next week. Right, so let's have a little look at what this is all about. There's 3 types of mourning Avelas. It's from Shivosa B'Tammuz for 3 weeks, correct? Is it one? Now, it starts off very weak, the mourning. Then we come to the week of Rosh Chodesh, starts Rosh Chodesh Av, gets more severe. We don't eat meat, we don't drink wine. And then the week of Tisha B'Av itself is the week when we really go to town. And on Tisha B'Av, we have a full day, 25-hour fasting, no shoes, no food, and we don't learn. The question I'm going to ask you is, Shivosa B'Tammuz, what happened on that day? The 5 things happened on that day. The first set of luchos were destroyed when Moshe came down with Shivosa B'Tammuz, correct? 40 days he was there from Shavuos to 40 days, and we lost the first set of luchos. The second was that the Korban Tomid in the Beis HaMikdash was stopped in the first Beis HaMikdash. The third thing was they broke in through the wall of Yerushalayim to begin the Korban, correct? That was what happened there. The next one, Apostomus burnt a Sefer Torah, and they built an idol in the Beis HaMikdash. 5 things. So my question is, not so simple. Why do we have Tisha B'Av as the only day when we don't wear shoes, we fast, we don't learn? Why don't we do that on Shivosa B'Tammuz as well? It's also a tragic day. Well, what's the difference between Shivosa B'Tammuz and Tisha B'Av? And there's a very big difference. When they broke through the wall, we lost something. What did we lose? We didn't lose the Beis Hamikdash then. We lost our independence. We were subservient at that time to the Romans, to whoever was the Romans who came in and smashed up the walls. We lost our independence. Please remember that, our independence. On Tisha B'Av, what did we lose? We lost the Beis Hamikdash. What was that? The Beis Hamikdash represented our closeness, our relationship to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Which is worse, our independence or our closeness to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? Even without an independence, we still had the closeness to Hashem. That's why Shivasa B'Tammuz is only from the morning till the night. Because you can lose your independence, but you can still remain close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You don't have to have your independence, but you can still be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But when you lose HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the closeness to Him, that's something to be sad about. That's something to worry us. Let me take you even further. Because on Tisha B'Av, we don't learn, but I'm going to tell you something about Tisha B'Av today. And it's something as well that applies even what you were saying, my friend, Mr. Solomon, about is it accidental, is it by chance, or all the rest of it. There's lots of things in the Torah we've got to understand. There is in the Megillah Eicha, there's a medrash where the Jewish people went to Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, and they said to him, please pray for the Jewish people, we get our Beis Hamikdash back. They wanted the Beis Hamikdash that was destroyed, they wanted it. So what did Yirmiyahu do? He went, remember what Kalev did, he went to the cave of Avraham. And he said, Avraham, he davened, he said, Avraham, he said, I want you to do me a favor. Go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And by the way, I'm putting it into my own words what the Medrash says here. Go to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ask him for a toiva to give us back the Beis HaMikdash. HaKadosh Baruch Hu records there, like when Avraham went, he said, Rabbi Shalom, look at me, he said, I came to you. He said, I found my way to find you. I was a young boy. I said, and I was prepared to give up my son. I didn't mind. I'll give my son up. The tests I went through, all my 10 tests, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, enough, not interested. He then went to Yitzchak. Yitzchak said, look, he said, I gave my life. And according to Rambam, by the way, he actually sacrificed himself. You know, he died on on that stone. That's why the Arabic use it. You say it was Yishmael, and it wasn't Yitzchak, but it was Yitzchak. Then he said, no, I'm not interested. Then Yaakov went, and Yaakov said, look, he said, I lived with Lovin for 22 years. You tell me anybody else who could put up with all of that. Im Lovin Garti, V'tayag Mitzvah Shamarti, I still remained a good Jew. He said, what I had to be subjected to, he said, they tricked me on my wife. He said, I ended up with Leah instead of Rachel. He said, every single thing, he said, I had to do, he said, I suffered. No, he said, no. And cut a long story short, he went to Rachel. So Rachel went to Hashem and she said as follows, Rabbi Shalom, my father was a crook. And instead of giving me to the man I loved and he loved me, he gave Leah. But what did I do? I didn't complain. I gave her all the secrets. And the Medrash says that she stayed under the bed in the tent so she could give all the secrets away with, and she would speak rather than Leah, so there wouldn't be the deception that they would deceive, even though, because she didn't want her sister to be embarrassed or anything like this. Because Baruch says, I'm going to listen to you. Because of you, I'm going to give Klal Yisrael back a second temple. What's the difference? And the difference is as follows. Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and Moshe as well was involved in this. Every single one of them were trying to make themselves out as martyrs. You know what I did for you? And therefore, as a martyr, I'm entitled to be given a reward for it. You hear what I'm saying now? People say, I just did this for you. Please, I'm entitled to something. Whereas Rachel turned around and says, I'm not a martyr. I'm not, she says, I knew everything that was going on. She says, I'm telling you, she says, it was not by chance that Leah was given to you. It was your thing. I lived with the situation. Do you hear that, Mr. Solomon? It was not an accident. He said it was a test and the sign from HaKadosh. I'm prepared to accept this, not as a martyr. Oh, I have to do it. I can't help it. I mean, no. If this is what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants, that's what I'm prepared to do. I'm prepared to live with. What a difference in an attitude that one takes. HaKadosh Baruch Hu said, if you live like this, That's when I'm going to give you back your Beis Hamikdash. Because it's people like you, that's why Rocha, by the way, is called the mother of Klal Yisrael. That's why she's outside in Beis Lechem, because she's not, she's waiting for us to come by and to deal with us. Okay? So therefore, you see, therefore, what is amazing. The Cedras all fit in with the times we're living in. So let's hope Shivasa B'Tammuz, with all the 5 things that happened, instead of burning a Sefer Torah, we'll put a Sefer Torah back. We'll be able to cuddle it again. At the moment, you can't kiss it. Basically, so they say the infection, everything. But nevertheless, we'll have the luchas back again, because what will happen is once the Beis Hamikdash comes, let's hope we'll get the Oren back with all the luchas in them and everything. We'll have the luchas. We'll have as well the karbonos. Those which were permitted will come back as well. We'll have Yerushalayim. We'll have everything in it as well. There'll be no more idols. We'll all serve HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And I hope in Mitzvah Hashem, David, and you say all these things. It says from yoga and from sorrow to simcha. That's what I hope in Mitzvah Hashem this week. When you fast, it's not the fasting that matters. It's not the not eating the food. It's the tefillah that comes from your heart. That's the important thing. And therefore, I hope in Mitzvah Hashem our tefillahs will be answered. You know what I've got outside my door? I have a tefillah. You remember when Klal Yisrael were in Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, take the lamb, put the blood inside the doorpost of your house. Inside, you hear me? Not outside, inside. That was the test. And they put them in the mashkof and on the mezuzahs, on the top and all the rest. I put a tefillah inside that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ani v'lo malach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going past us. No, I don't need the Malach HaMavos. We let them pass by. I want HaKadosh Baruch Hu to come and visit us. That we should all of you and your families in Mitzvah Hashem should be zoiche that this coming year we should see the Mashiach. We should be able to learn not just the Eicha. You know, the Eicha is another word for Eicha. And by the way, by Moshe, when Odom Arishon, you remember, it says in Odom Arishon, it says there, Ayeko. Where are you? Says the bunch. He knew where he was, but what he was saying is Eicha. How could you have done such a thing? Do you hear that? HaKadosh Baruch Hu was saying to Adam Arishan. So we are saying it the other way around now. Instead of saying Eicha, yes, why? We say Ayeko, where are you? Are you awake? Can just change the words around. That's from Nega, which is the plague. Let's turn it into Oineg. Let's turn it to Simcha. Can you see how the same thing, which is an evil, can become something good? That's all I daven now, that the 3 weeks of sadness, there's a gimel to put. You've got the gimel de poranusa, the 3 weeks in Bein Hametzorim, between all the tragedies. Let's hope in Mitzvah Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu will change that nega. The plague will become an oineg, a simcha. We'll be able to be with our families. We'll be able to join with our communities. We'll be able to have davening and shuls. We'll be able to sit down at the table on Shabbos. I wish you all a good Shabbos. And they say in Yiddish, a leichten fast, an easy
fast, yeah.
And enjoy it. And I'll see you, Mitzvah Hashem. There's Chukat Balak. Next week is Chukat Balak.
No, Chukat Balak is this week.
No?
Also in London.
Sorry?
Also in London is Chukat Balak this week.
Oh, yeah, but not in Israel.
Israel too.
They're catching up with us.
Balak.
Yeah.
And next week is Pinchas, no?
Pinchas, yeah.
We'll play around with Pinchas. See you all. Lovely to speak to you.
Okay, thank you. Good Shabbos. Bye.
Thank you so much. Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos.
Litrot.